Hey, I get asked often about carpal tunnel issues and damage to this joint here at the base of the thumb, the MCP joint. Um, and when it's gotten pretty bad, it's a pain to work with. So often you still need to be able to use your hand and well, work basically. So the question comes, how do I help deal with that arthritic joint? How do I deal with the carpal tunnel issues that are probably showing up? And can I keep working without causing further damage? So let me get into it. First off, you want to remember that we are a biotensegrity structure, meaning that problems anywhere affect problems, symptoms, pains anywhere and everywhere. Which, to say that another way, don't get fixated on this joint. Problems and tightnesses here, or over here, or even over here into your chest and your neck, all of these are pulling through your arm, and they start to pull that joint into compression. They start to pull it out of alignment. They start to twist. So that goes a long way to explain, why is that joint getting damaged? Why does it keep getting damaged, even though your body can heal things? Not if it's constantly being stressed, damaged, and driven into itself, pulled out of alignment. So you want to address hard tissues, you want to address stiff tissues everywhere and anywhere in your body. Particularly look for things in your lower arm. These radius and ulna bones tend to get a bit twisted and glued. They don't quite work right. Same thing with your carpal bones, the bones of your wrist. They tend to get a little bit twisted, shifted, glued. They don't move, and other joints take the stress. So let me give you just an example of one thing that can be very, very helpful. Many people are very, very stiff and tight and thick through their forearm. And if you can zoom in on this here, what you can do is put your arm down here on a surface and just take your elbow. You're gonna find hard, thick, tight, tender areas here, and you want to sink your elbow, or another tool. An elbow is a convenient one to use. Sink your elbow into those tissues slowly and gently. This is not about firm pressing. This is not about stripping out and breaking up adhesions. This is about sinking into hard, thickened tissues and waiting. Give them a few minutes, and I do mean minutes. 3 to 5 minutes is the minimum for those tissues to slowly soften, slowly ease, let go of their tensions. What's going to be happening in there is those tissues will be starting to rehydrate. They've been gummed up, glued, gelled, and thickened, and this is starting to turn them back into more mobile tissues. It'll do a lot of good. Gradually, it's starting to happen with mine already. Gradually, you might find that your elbow starts to slide and glide through those tissues. You don't want to push, you don't want to shove, but if those tissues open up and allow your elbow to glide through them, that's a good sign of change. Follow along with that into the next layers of thickness. So I'm not going to do it 3 to 5 minutes here and now, but that's what you should do. Gradually, you'll go all the way through any of those hard, tender areas. Always come back out slowly and gently. Otherwise, you can get kind of a rebound effect that's not so pleasant. You'll feel how those bones are a little bit twisted and shifted, and you'll kind of find aches and pains throughout there. That's a good sign, again, that you're getting into needed, helpful stuff that's going to take the pressure and tensions off of your thumb and your wrist. Another thing that you can do is also to focus on, to pay attention to the carpal bundles, the carpal bones that form the carpal tunnel. Wrists tend to get kind of bunched up. That's why you go to the chiropractor and the lunate, the bone here, is constantly shifted out of place. When we feel wrists and hands, they are frequently, if you imagine the carpal bones are like this, they tend to get a bit bunched like this, a little bit twisted. Falls on your wrists, sprains, all that sort of thing tends to get your wrist into a bit of a difficulty. You compensate well enough for it, but eventually over years you end up with problems and breakdowns. So we want to get the carpal bones moving again. They should have a little bit of slide and glide between each of those bones. So one thing that you can do is, again, use a surface, and if you put a little bit of weight, a little bit of pressure down into your wrist so that these bones start to spread. You want to be gentle, you don't want to be shove, and you don't want to shove, and you want to be slow. Give those sore tissues, those tight, thickened tissues that don't move, you've got to give them time to rehydrate and start to move again. They cannot move quickly. It's the problem with everybody's approaches is that they're too fast. 3 to 5 minutes. Gradually, you're going to feel these bones starting to ache, starting to move just a little bit. I'm going to go a bit faster for the sake of time, but again, 3 to 5 minutes. Do not rush this. Eventually, you can start to twist. I am taking my forearm and I'm twisting this way, which starts to shear through those bones there. It just gives them another angle of motion, of movement. You can gradually shift your pressure from your pinky side to your ring finger, to your middle finger, to your index finger, over to your thumb. Again, gentle and slow. Wait for the tissues to change. Never force. It's okay if it's sore. It's all right if it's sore, but you don't want to be forcing through it. Gently nudge in, breathe, soften, allow those tissues to melt. Slowly ease off of that when you're done. Your wrist will likely be very sore after that. It's moving in a way that it has not moved, and it's a bit like a rusty hinge that is starting to move. It squeaks, it creaks. Your wrist will likely be sore. A little bit of gentle, easy movement will help. Gradually, you'll start to be able to flop the wrist around, and it will actually start to feel quite a bit better. And you'll find that your wrist is looser than it's been in a long time. Okay, now for that joint that's been degrading and damaged, arthritic itself, a couple of ideas. One, same as with your forearm, you can get pressure into the pad of your thumb. You're going to find that it's sore in there, and you're just going to put some pressure in there. I'm using my thumb right now so that you can see, but I could also use my elbow. I could use another tool, my fingers, something. But you're going to gently put pressure into those tissues that are sore. They should not be hard, they should not be tight. And gradually they will soften and change. I very much would use my elbow for this instead of my fingers, but just for the sake of showing you, I would go like this. Again, just gentle pressure nudging into the tenderness. You're going to get very, very sore in there. It's okay to nudge into that, but do so with very slow speed and not forcing. Now, a very helpful thing is going to be to take your thumb with your other hand and gently traction. You want to pull open that joint. This joint is a problem one, this joint is a problem one. Gently traction, distract open those joints, and give that the joint in there some space to move. Now, it's not going to be just one direction. You're going to find that this direction helps, that direction helps, this direction helps. Feel for where it's tight, feel for where it's compressed and held, and gently give it some time to open up. Again, 3 to 5 minutes. You don't have to do this all at once, but you should be doing something like this once, twice, multiple times during a day. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, throughout the day. It will add up. Gently traction through your thumb. Now, while you're tractioning, I've mentioned different angles. You can also twist through the joint. You can start to bend through the joint, rotate. This joint, all joints, should be able to move in many directions. They get gummed up and stuck and painful in one particular direction, and then you stop moving that way and you start running into problems. That was traction. Now, surprisingly, because the joint has been impacted, compressed together, surprisingly, you might not think about it, actually compressing it can help too. You're going to be very, very light with this, since it's already problem and damaged, you're going to be very, very light, but use your own arm support as the opposite side, as the base, and then take your fingers of your other hand and gently compress into the joint. Again, sore is okay, but it should not be the pain of you're pushing too hard and pushing through things. Gently nudge in, and when you get that sore, that pain warning signal, that's where you stop and wait. Soften, breathe, feel into that. You'll feel those tissues start to give way a little bit. What you're doing is you're pushing into inflamed, sore, damaged tissues. This gentle compression with patient waiting is very helpful for inflamed, damaged situations. Gently compress and wait. And as that starts to change, you'll find that a little bit of a different angle starts to be helpful. Bending a little bit, rotating a little bit, twisting a little bit. Twist through the joints. You can hold here to focus more on this joint, or you can hold here to focus more on this joint. Take this area and compress into your wrist. And twist. And wait. Basically what we're doing is we've got a gummed up joint in there with a lot of gunk, and we are compressing and starting to clean that out. Now, I don't mean that we're going to be cleaning out and smoothing out the bone. That's not the point. I'm talking about the inflammation that is thick and stuck and just basically sitting in there. This will help move that out. That will also stimulate production of synovial fluid to help fill up the joint space that should be there. It's okay if the bone surfaces, the joint surfaces are roughed up, because they actually shouldn't be touching each other anyway. It's all the other forces that are driving those two bone ends, the joints, together and grinding and roughing up the surface, and the inflammation in there, all of that sore. You take that situation out, you fix and address that situation, then even if the joint surface is still roughed up, you may be symptom free. It should at least reduce the troubles. Let's see, so that's compression, traction, wrist into a table, and forearm, thumb pad. Work anything that is hot, hard, tight, or tender in this sort of way, and you'll start to do much better. Hope that helps.